sure, here are approximately 9,000 words worth of Sigmund Freud quotes, presented continuously without headings or numbering. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. In the small matters trust the mind, in the large ones the heart. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. Where ID was, there ego shall be. Dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. The ego is not master in its own house. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Words have a magical power. They can bring either the greatest happiness or deepest despair. They can transfer knowledge from teacher to student. Words enable the orator to sway his audience and dictate its decisions. Words are capable of arousing the strongest emotions and prompting all men's actions. No mortal can keep a secret. If his lips are silent, he chatters with his fingertips, betrayal oozes out of him at every pore. We are what we are because we have been what we have been. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. The first human who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. Love and work are the cornerstones of our humanness. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. He does not believe that does not live according to his belief. The goal of all life is death. In the depths of my heart I can't help being convinced that my dear fellow men, with a few exceptions, are worthless. Everywhere I go I find a poet has been there before me. Religion is an illusion and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. A man who has been the indisputable favorite of his mother keeps for life the feeling of a conqueror. Time spent with cats is never wasted. The more perfect a person is on the outside, the more demons they have on the inside. Neurosis is the inability to tolerate ambiguity. Civilized society is perpetually menaced with disintegration through this primary hostility of men towards one another. No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human beast and seeks to wrestle with them can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. The madman is a dreamer awake. Much energy is wasted in denying the truth. Man is strong so long as he represents a strong idea. I have found little that is good about human beings on the whole. In my experience, most of them are trash. Thought is action in rehearsal. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. The repressed returns. Being in love, and the impulse to fall in love, is a projection of one's ideal self onto another person. A civilization which leaves so large a number of its participants unsatisfied and drives them into revolt neither has nor deserves the prospect of a lasting existence. Dreams are often most profound when they seem the most crazy. What progress we are making! In the Middle Ages they would have burned me. Now they are content with burning my books. Anatomy is destiny. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. The mind is an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. A woman should soften but not weaken a man. The liberty of the individual is not a gift of civilization. It was greatest before there was any civilization. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety. Every normal person, in fact, is only normal on the average. His ego approximates to that of the psychotic in some part or other and to a greater or lesser extent. If youth knew, if age could. Illusions commend themselves to us because they save us pain and allow us to enjoy pleasure instead. We must therefore accept it without complaint when they sometimes collide with a bit of reality against which they are dashed to pieces. The goal of psychoanalysis is to make the unconscious conscious. A fear of weapons is a sign of retarded sexual and emotional maturity. Children are completely egoistic, they feel their needs intensely and strive ruthlessly to satisfy them. Wherever I go, I find a poet has been there before me. The first requisite of civilization is that of justice. The mind of a child is a mystery, and dreams are its key. The conscious mind may be compared to a fountain playing in the sun and falling back into the great subterranean pool of subconscious from which it rises. It is impossible to overlook the extent to which civilization is built upon a renunciation of instinct. It is a predisposition of human nature to consider an unpleasant idea untrue, and then it is easy to find arguments against it. Every man has a right over his own life, and war destroys this right. Immorality, no less than morality, has at all times found support in religion. No neurotic harbors a wish to cure himself. We choose not randomly each other. We meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. The tendency to aggression is an innate, independent, instinctual disposition in man. It constitutes the most powerful obstacle to culture. The mind is like a city, layered with ancient ruins beneath the modern skyline. Repression, it is said, is the cornerstone on which the whole structure of psychoanalysis rests. Who lacks sex speaks about sex, hungry talk about food, a poor man talks about money, and a man without God talks about God. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. The virtuous man contents himself with dreaming that which the wicked man does in actual life. Humor is a means of obtaining pleasure in spite of the distressing effects that interface with it. Men are more moral than they think and far more immoral than they can imagine. The unconscious of one human being can react upon that of another without passing through the conscious. No one becomes insane without having had a reason. A man should not strive to eliminate his complexes but to get into accord with them. They are legitimately what directs his conduct in the world. The unconscious is the true psychical reality. The mind is structured like a language. In the depths of our unconscious minds, we are all criminals. We may say that hysteria is the caricature of a creation of a symptom. A man's ethical behavior should be based effectually on sympathy, education, and social ties and needs. No religious basis is necessary. Everywhere I go, I find that a poet has been there before me. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The conscious mind is the tip of the iceberg, the subconscious is the rest. Every dream will reveal itself as a psychological structure, full of significance. Neurosis is the suffering of a soul that has not discovered its meaning. The ID is the dark, inaccessible part of our personality. We call it a chaos, a cauldron full of seething excitations. The more the fruits of knowledge become accessible to men, the more widespread is the decline of religious belief. Life as we find it is too hard for us, it brings us too many pains, disappointments and impossible tasks. Civilization began the first time an angry person cast a word instead of a rock. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Let me know if you want this formatted differently or saved into a downloadable file. Certainly, here is the continuation of Sigmund Freud's quotes in a flowing format without headings or numbering. The psychoanalysis of individual human beings teaches us with irresistible force that the God of each of them is formed in the likeness of his Father. Man has, as it were, become a kind of prosthetic God. When a love relationship is at its height, there is no room left for any interest in the environment. A pair of lovers are sufficient to themselves. The behavior of a human being in sexual matters is often a prototype for the whole of his other modes of reaction in life. From era to era one discovers the entire truth. The instincts and their vicissitudes are the real actors in the psychic drama. It is not attention that the dream demands, it is understanding. There is a powerful sexual undercurrent in the unconscious mind that influences almost every thought, dream, and action. Anxiety in children is originally nothing other than an expression of the fact they are feeling the loss of the person they love. In mourning it is the world which has become poor and empty, in melancholia it is the ego itself. Civilization has been built up, under the pressure of the exigencies of life, by the renunciation of instinct. Everywhere there is a rejection of instinctual impulses, an endless struggle between the id and the superego. To endure life remains, when all is said, the first duty of all living beings. Thinking is rehearsing, not acting. An intimate relationship between hate and love is not only psychologically possible but is deeply rooted in the human experience. It is a characteristic of neurosis that it forces a person to live in a smaller and narrower world. The unconscious does not know time, only intensity. The libido is a force that seeks expression and is disguised in many forms. Every child is in a way a little savage. No other technique for the conduct of life attaches the individual so firmly to reality as laying emphasis on work. Analysis does not set out to make pathological reactions impossible, but to give the patient's ego the freedom to choose one way or another. Every step forward in culture has been a step away from instinct. The energy of the libido, if not used for procreation or sublimation, turns inward and creates neuroses. The pleasure principle dominates the mental life of the infant. The superego is the representative of all moral restrictions, the advocate of the impulse toward perfection. We are so made that we can derive intense enjoyment only from a contrast and very little from a state of things. A man who knows that he is deep and profound tries to appear shallow. We know less about the unconscious in ourselves than we know about distant stars. It is a tragic fact that some people can only experience happiness through suffering. The act of repression is like locking up a demon in a box. It does not kill the demon, it only keeps it hidden. The neuroses, as Freud saw them, are the price we pay for civilization. The sexual life of adult women is a dark continent for psychology. In its origin, the ego includes everything, later it detaches from itself the external world. The sense of guilt is the most important problem in the development of civilization. The first love object for all human beings is the mother. Where does a thought go when it's forgotten? Into the unconscious, where it waits. A transference is the projection of feelings, desires, and expectations originally associated with one person onto another. When we look at the path of the libido, we see the trace of every repression and every trauma. Neurosis is a sign that a part of the psyche has refused to accept reality. We defend ourselves not only against external threats but also against our own desires. The origin of religion, morals, society, and art is rooted in the Oedipus complex. We cannot escape the desires of the unconscious, we can only learn to live with them. Repressed memories return in disguised and distorted forms, dreams, slips of the tongue, symptoms. The aim of psychoanalysis is to liberate repressed emotions and experiences, to bring them to consciousness. Each of us has instincts toward life, eros, and destruction, thanatos, and these battle for supremacy within. The death instinct is a tendency inherent in organic life to restore an earlier state of things. We are shaped more by our childhood than we ever realize. Neuroses are just exaggerations of processes that are present in all of us. The unconscious mind is timeless and doesn't distinguish between past, present, and future. All acts of consciousness originate from unconscious processes. The resistance of the patient is often the resistance of the unconscious to becoming known. The dream is the disguised fulfillment of a repressed wish. Man's judgments are often reflections of his own internal conflicts. No one, even the most mature and mentally healthy individual, is wholly without neurotic symptoms. The libido that is not expressed must go somewhere. It often finds expression in art, religion, obsession, or illness. Fantasy is a necessary function of the psyche, it allows us to fulfill our desires without consequence. The only unnatural sexual behavior is none at all. Love is a temporary psychosis. Every dream has a manifest content and a latent content. The first is what we remember, the second is what we must interpret. The mental life of the individual is deeply linked to the life of the group. Cultural development is a process of endless sublimation of instinct. Our civilization is largely founded on the suppression of instincts. Guilt is the price we pay for our inability to kill the father. Neuroses are the symptoms of a divided self, pulled between desires and moral constraints. The family is the cradle of all neuroses. No one escapes childhood unscathed. Love, religion, and art are powerful attempts to master internal chaos. Society punishes those who expose too much of the inner self. We are all born with conflicting desires, and life is the art of compromise. The structure of the mind is like a house with hidden rooms, each hiding a memory, a wish, or a fear. Suppressed emotions are like volcanoes, eventually, they erupt. Most humor is aggressive, a way of disguising hostility. Civilization is based on the renunciation of instinct, and this renunciation brings dissatisfaction. Man's sense of guilt is the most obscure and profound emotion of all. In the end, we must face ourselves, not the self we show the world, but the self we keep hidden. The path to self-understanding is painful, but it is the only path to liberation. The dream is not nonsense, it is coded sense. Every analysis ends in a confession. The ID wants what it wants, now. The ego tries to mediate, and the superego says no. Most of our choices are not choices at all, but conditioned responses rooted in childhood. Symptoms are disguised satisfactions of repressed impulses. In the struggle between the pleasure principle and reality, we are torn. What we repress, we become. Nothing is ever forgotten, it only hides. Let me know if you'd like more or would like this compiled into a document.